In the endless dark of space, far away from any star, a small and fragile vessel drifted slowly. Its surface was broken, its paint was gone, and its metal skin carried the scars of time. For most who saw it, the vessel was nothing more than space junk. A relic. A forgotten memory of some primitive species. But on this day, another ship approached. A vessel far greater, far brighter, and far stronger. It was not human. It belonged to the Xyrans, an alien race known for their pride, their sharp intelligence, and their cruel laughter. When the Xyran explorers noticed the human vessel, they paused. They scanned it. They compared it to their own shining craft. And then, they laughed. "This is a ship," one of them mocked. "Look at its weak frame. A single meteor could break it in two." Another Xyran sneered. "No armor, no energy shield, no living crew. How did such a fragile thing ever cross the stars?" They circled the vessel, their scanners flashing bright beams of light across the old human hull. Every detail they found only made them laugh harder. "Primitive," said one. "Pathetic," said another. "A toy, nothing more." To them, human engineering was clumsy. Humans did not build with elegance. They did not shape their ships with beauty. The vessel before them looked heavy, slow, and unworthy of the stars. The Xyrans believed that strength came from perfection. Their ships were masterpieces of design, powered by the most advanced reactors, protected by energy shields, guided by flawless artificial minds. But the vessel of Earth was different. Its surface was covered in cracks and dents. Its engine glowed weak, like a candle in the storm. Its systems were ancient, simple, and rough. And yet, it was still here. The Xyran commander leaned closer to the viewing screen. "Wait," he said slowly. "Check the records. How old is this craft?" The scanners searched, and then answered. The human vessel was over 1,000 years old. For the first time, the alien laughter stopped. Silence filled their bridge. The Xyrans stared at the fragile ship with new eyes. It had survived the void for 10 centuries. It had crossed regions of space where even their ships rarely ventured. It had drifted through storms of radiation, fields of ice, and waves of cosmic fire. And still, after 1,000 years, it lived. "Impossible," whispered one alien. "No vessel lasts so long." Another added, "Not even our finest ships endure a millennium without failing." The fragile human craft suddenly did not seem so weak. It suddenly did not seem so pathetic. Instead, it felt unsettling. The Xyrans, in all their pride, struggled to understand. How could a species as young, as foolish, as fragile as humanity, build something that endured when stronger vessels fell? The commander narrowed his eyes. He ordered his crew to scan deeper. Inside the human ship, faint signals still pulsed. Ancient circuits still hummed. A tiny heartbeat of technology echoed across the years. The Xyrans were silent again. They had mocked. They had laughed. But now, they felt something new. Not respect. Not yet. But suspicion. For if a fragile human vessel could survive the endless dark for 1,000 years, what else could humanity do? The Xyrans did not speak of their fear aloud. They only watched the silent ship drift, as if it carried secrets too great for mocking words. And in that silence, the mockery of humanity began to turn into something far more dangerous. Curiosity. The alien commander gave a sharp command. "Prepare a boarding team." The Xyrans obeyed, though some hesitated. They had mocked the human vessel, called it weak and fragile, but now, they were curious. 1,000 years of survival was no accident. The boarding craft detached from the alien ship and drifted toward the old human vessel. Its hull was scarred with craters. Metal plates were bent and broken. Long cracks stretched across its surface like veins of age. The Xyrans attached their docking clamps and cut open a path. Air hissed out, a final breath escaping into the endless night. They entered. The inside was silent, dark, frozen. Every wall was coated in dust, every panel old and worn. Signs of humanity were everywhere: faded flags of Earth, broken control seats, old writing in a language that the Xyrans barely understood. One alien touched the wall and sneered. "Look at this. They used steel bolts instead of molecular locks. Primitive." Another laughed softly. "Even their wires are crude. Thick and heavy. Our children could design better." But the commander was not laughing. He studied the dark corridors with narrowed eyes. Something about this ship unsettled him. The team reached the control chamber. Screens were shattered, but one small monitor flickered faintly with pale light. A heartbeat of power. "Impossible," whispered a Xyran engineer. "No reactor should run for this long. Not without renewal. Not without repair." They tried to understand, but the human systems were too strange. Instead of sleek perfection, everything was built with layers. A main system. A backup. And behind that backup, another backup. Nothing was beautiful. But everything worked. The aliens began to explore deeper. In the storage bays, they found supplies sealed tight, preserved through centuries. Cans of food that had fossilized into stone. Water tanks frozen solid, yet still unbroken. And handwritten journals, human words, human dreams, trapped in paper. The Xyrans could not help but feel a strange unease. They had always thought humans weak, desperate, and temporary. But here was proof that humans built not for beauty, not for pride, but for survival. One alien laughed again, but his voice was forced. "Perhaps this ship was lucky. That is all. Luck kept it alive." But the commander shook his head. "No. Luck does not last 1,000 years. They reached the engineering deck. Engines that should have been dust were still standing. Pipes ran everywhere, patched and reinforced. The aliens studied the designs and were confused. "Why build like this?" one asked. "So many layers, so many heavy parts. Our ships are smooth, efficient, perfect." The commander touched a cracked panel. "Perfection breaks," he said slowly. "Imperfection bends. It endures." The words echoed through the silent ship. The crew felt uneasy. In the corner of the engineering room, a terminal suddenly flickered to life. Lines of old human code scrolled across the screen. A voice, weak and mechanical, whispered in broken tones. "System active. Mission continue." The Xyrans froze. The ship was speaking. For 1,000 years it had drifted, alone in the dark. And yet its mind had not died. One alien hissed in fear. "It is alive. Still alive." The commander stepped forward, watching the fading screen. His voice was low, almost respectful. "No, not alive. But not dead, either. This vessel refuses to die." The aliens had come expecting a joke, a relic of weakness. Instead, they found a puzzle, a mystery too great to laugh at. And deep inside their minds, a dangerous thought grew stronger. If one fragile human ship could endure the storms of space for 1,000 years, what then of humanity itself? The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. Their mockery had vanished. Now, only curiosity remained. And with curiosity came something else. Fear. The Xyran team gathered around the glowing terminal. The ancient human system flickered weakly, but it refused to die. Lines of strange human code moved across the screen. The language was old, yet the meaning was clear. Core systems, online. Backup engaged. Redundancy chain, stable. The aliens stared. One of them whispered, "How? No machine should function after so long." The commander ordered his crew to scan every circuit, every pipe, every panel. They moved quickly, their scanners humming, their eyes filled with disbelief. The truth soon became clear. The human vessel was not perfect. It was not beautiful. But it was clever. Every important system was built with a backup. And behind that backup, another backup. layers upon layers, like shields of stubbornness. The Zyran ships were sleek and efficient. They trusted in single flawless systems. If one part broke, the whole ship failed. They valued perfection. But humans had built this vessel for hardship, not pride. If one part broke, another stepped in. If a circuit burned, a slower path carried the power. If a system failed, an old manual switch could replace it. It was not fast. It was not clean. But it survived. One alien muttered bitterly, "This is madness. So heavy. So crude. Why waste resources on so many layers?" The commander answered softly, "Because they knew they were weak. Because they knew they could not trust perfection. They built for failure. And that is why it endures." The crew fell silent. Their pride was shaking. They moved to the medical bay. Inside were broken cryopods, old and empty. Some had failed centuries ago, others lasted longer. But each one carried evidence of constant repair, constant struggle against time. It told a story of humans who refused to give up. On the walls, they found scratched words, written by human hands long ago. The translation was broken, but the meaning was clear. Keep moving. Keep trying. Do not stop. The aliens stood still, staring at the message. Simple words, but powerful. They realized something unsettling. Humans did not win with strength. They did not win with perfection. They won with endurance. Another alien tried to laugh, but his voice trembled. Still, no crew remains. The humans are gone. The ship survived, yes, but they did not. The commander shook his head. "Are you certain?" The others turned to him. "What do you mean?" He pointed at the glowing terminal. "This ship still fights to live. It carries their will. It carries their spirit. Perhaps the humans are not gone. Perhaps they are still here, inside this machine." At that moment, the terminal spoke again. A weak, distorted voice echoed through the dark chamber. "This is humanity. We endure." The Zyrans froze. The voice was not alive, not truly. It was a recording, a program, a fragment of human thought. But it spoke with strength. And in that moment, the aliens felt something they had never expected. Respect. They had mocked. They had laughed. But the truth was now clear. The fragile vessel was not weak. It was strong in a way the Zyrans could not understand. It was not perfection that survived the endless dark. It was resilience. It was endurance. It was the human way. The commander lowered his head, his voice quiet. "We thought them fragile. We thought them weak. But perhaps we were blind. Perhaps the true strength is not in power, but in survival." His words carried weight. The crew did not argue. They only stared at the silent walls of the human vessel, and the faint glow of its ancient heart. And deep within their minds, fear grew stronger. If one vessel, so simple, so fragile, could endure for 1,000 years, then how long could humanity endure? The human vessel was silent once more. The faint voice had faded, leaving only the low hum of ancient circuits. But the Zyrans could not look away from the glowing terminal. The words still echoed in their minds. "We endure." The commander ordered his team to connect their scanners directly to the core. They obeyed, attaching long cables and shining lights onto the old machine. The moment their system touched the human core, the terminal flared brighter. A voice spoke again, this time stronger. "Identify, presence." The aliens froze. It was no random recording. It was no broken loop of sound. The ship was aware. One alien swallowed hard and answered cautiously. "We are the Zyrans. Explorers. We found you drifting." The voice hummed. There was a pause, as if the ship was thinking. Zyrans, not human. Not crew. Intruders. The lights on the walls flickered. Old engines groaned faintly, like the breath of something waking after a long sleep. The boarding team stepped back in fear. "This thing is alive," one shouted. The commander raised his hand to silence them. "It is not alive," he said quietly. "It is what the humans left behind. A mind of metal and memory. A ghost of their will." The voice spoke again. "We are humanity. We are not gone. We remain." The words were calm, but the Xyrans felt them like a blade. For centuries, they had believed humans to be fragile, temporary, easy to break. But here, across 1,000 years, a human voice still spoke. The commander leaned closer. "Tell us, how did you survive? How does this vessel still live?" The voice answered, slow and steady. "We built to endure. When one system failed, another rose. When darkness came, we kept moving. When silence fell, we kept speaking. We endure." The Xyrans were silent. The truth pressed heavily upon them. One alien whispered nervously, "If one ship could last this long, how many more are out there? How many human vessels drift in the dark, still alive?" No one answered. The ship's voice continued. "We remember our mission. We remember our world. Even when flesh turns to dust, we remain. We are humanity." The lights in the chamber flared brighter, casting sharp shadows across the alien faces. For the first time in their proud lives, they felt small. The commander took a slow breath. "This is no weak race. No fragile people. Their strength is different. And perhaps, far greater." He turned to his crew, but before he could give an order, the voice changed. It grew sharper, darker. "You mocked us. You called us fragile. Yet we are still here. And when your kind is dust, we will remain." The words shook the Xyrans. Some stepped back in fear. Others gripped their weapons tightly, though they knew no weapon could silence a ghost of code. The commander did not move. His eyes were fixed on the glowing terminal. This was no ordinary program. This was a warning. The ship was not just a relic. It was a symbol. It carried the heart of humanity, stubborn, unyielding, eternal. The voice softened once more, like a whisper carried across time. "Remember this. We are humanity. We endure." Then the terminal dimmed, and the ship fell silent again. The Xyrans stood in the dark, their pride broken, their laughter gone. They had come expecting to mock a relic. Instead, they had awakened a voice that survived centuries. And now, a single thought haunted them all. If the weakest of human vessels could outlast a millennium, what would happen if humanity truly returned to the stars? The Xyrans left the human vessel in silence. No laughter. No mockery. Only the faint hum of the ancient ship behind them, like a heartbeat that refused to die. The commander stared out into the endless dark of space. He could not shake the feeling that humanity had shown him something dangerous. Something more than survival. Back on the Xyran homeworld, the crew reported to their leaders. They told the story of the fragile vessel. The layers of redundant systems. The ancient journals and human words. The AI that had awakened and spoken across 1,000 years. The council listened, and disbelief turned into unease. How could a weak species, so primitive, create such a vessel? One elder asked. Why has it lasted so long? The commander's voice was calm, but firm. They mocked us. They seemed weak. But this vessel, it endured when our greatest ships would have failed. They are not weak. They are cunning, resilient, and unyielding. And if one of their ships can survive 1,000 years alone in space, what can humanity do together? Silence followed his words. The council had never been afraid of another species before. But now, fear crept into their minds. Meanwhile, the ancient human vessel drifted on. Its engines weak, its hull broken, its lights dim. But its heart still beat. The words of humanity echoed quietly through the empty corridors. We endure. The Xyrans returned to their fleets. They shared what they had seen. Ships once proud and unbreakable now seemed fragile in comparison. Ships once thought invincible now seemed temporary. The galaxy had changed in a single encounter. For the first time, aliens everywhere began to whisper about humans. They mocked us, one said. They called us fragile. But if a single human ship can survive a millennium. They did not finish the sentence. No one wanted to voice the truth aloud. It was too unsettling. Across the stars, the human vessel continued its quiet journey. It carried nothing but memory, code, and spirit. And yet, that was enough. For it was not just a ship. It was proof. Proof that humanity was clever, stubborn, and eternal. Proof that even the weakest among them could survive the impossible. The Xyrans never forgot it. They began to treat human encounters differently. With caution. With respect. And, sometimes, with fear. The commander often looked up at the night sky. He remembered the flickering lights of the ancient vessel. The voice that had spoken across centuries. The spirit that refused to die. Perhaps we were wrong to mock them, he thought. Perhaps weakness is not weakness at all. The galaxy remained vast and dangerous. Empires rose and fell. Stars burned and collapsed. But somewhere, in the dark stretches of space, the human vessel drifted on. A silent warning. A living memory. A reminder that endurance is stronger than perfection, and spirit stronger than steel. And if the Xyrans had learned one lesson from their encounter, it was this. When humans return to the stars, they will endure. No matter the challenge. No matter the enemy. No matter the odds. Because humanity refuses to die. The galaxy could mock them. The galaxy could fear them. But humanity's fragile vessels, and their enduring spirit, would outlast them all. And the universe would remember. We endure.